All right, thank you for staying with us. The Elephants of Côte d'Ivoire have won the 2023 Africa Cup of Nations AFCON after defeating the Super Eagles of Nigeria 2-1 on Sunday. Nigeria looked set to repeat their 1-0 victory over the Ivorians at the Ebimpe Olympic Stadium during the group stage when captain William Troost-Ekong, who had netted a penalty to decide that first meeting, rose to head in the opener late in the first half. However, Frank Kessie equalized just after the hour mark, and Halaton Simon Adingra's cross in the 81st minute to spark wild celebration among the sea of orange in the Abidjan stands. Ivory Coast's success adds this year's title to those claimed in 1992 and 2015. While this win also allows them to join Nigeria on 3 Cup of Nations triumphs overall. Only Egypt, Cameroon and Ghana have won the title more often, with the Super Eagles squandering the opportunity to match their Ghanaian rivals on 4 victories. Spearheaded by reigning African Player of the Year, Osimhen, the Nigerians had looked the most formidable team in the competition over the last month. But Ivory Coast's sense of destiny was simply too overpowering, as they became the first host country to win the AFCON since 2006.
Frank Kessie! Côte d'Ivoire are back in the game! Pushing players forward here. Troost-Ekong again. This time over the top. Here they come again, the Ivorians to the byline.
Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu has praised the Super Eagles of Nigeria for their remarkable performance in the final of the 2024 Africa Cup of Nations in Côte d'Ivoire. President Tinubu commended the team, the coach, the crew, and the entire management team for their hard work, dedication, and sacrifice to come this far in the tournament. He acknowledged the obstacles they consistently surpassed with a steadily improving performance as they pulled through to the finals. The president urged Nigerians to be of good cheer, emphasizing that we have won a great victory in the hearts of Africa and the world by our grit, rigor, and determination in the field of play. Quote, let this passing event not dishearten us, but bring us together to work harder. We are a great nation, bound as one by the green, white, green banner of resilience, joy, hope, duty, and untiring love. To those cherished Nigerian youth expressing their gifts in communities, drawing lines in the sand as they play football in their humble rectangles of play, you can be our heroes tomorrow. Do not relent in your pursuit. My administration is here to make dreams come true. End quote. But joining us to discuss the outcome of this match is our sports correspondent, Solomon Ajuziogu. Solomon, good morning. It's the morning after. You're finding it difficult to smile. I don't know. Very good. Oh, wow. It was a hard-fought one, even though it was said that Nigeria squandered her chances, especially if you look at the number of shots at target, the chances they had, the possession and all of it. But we came second. Solomon, talk to me. What did you see when you were watching the match?
It was always going to be a very difficult game.
Right.
It was always going to be a very difficult game. The Ivorians have, you see, second chances can be very powerful.
Right.
Yeah, they got that second chance.
They rose like a phoenix.
Exactly. I mean, coming from the group stage where there was uncertainty about their qualification, and Algeria doing them that favor, you know, as it were. So a team that literally came from the dead suddenly found a new lease of life with a local coach. Well, the foreign coach...
you had to mention that.
Yeah, it's important. The last time Nigeria won this tournament, Nigeria won with a local coach, Stephen Keshi. The Ivorians won with a local coach on interim basis, a coach that was appointed midway into the tournament. You know, isn't that amazing? He's always been there, but they did not take him seriously. They did not think that he had the capacity to take them this far. And I think that that was one brush stroke that changed the entire dynamics of the Ivorian team. It gave them belief. It seems that Emassify, the interim manager, had an idea of how this should be done, and then he reinvigorated the team and instilled a new sense of belief in the team, and this is how far they've come. Ever since that knockout stage.
Right, but he probably wouldn't have been used if the head coach wasn't even fired in the first place after the initial dismal performance.
It will amaze you to know that even while he was being appointed in interim capacity, the Ivorians were already negotiating with another foreign coach who had won the tournament with them before. It's amazing, so that is how much Africans do not believe in themselves.
Right.
I mean, look at what the local boy has done. Unfortunately, the foreign guy was almost going to get the team eliminated. So it was the local boy who came on, who had played in this tournament, who had played on, on many, levels, before, who knew what to do, how to inspire the team, and how to take them this far. Even in that knockout match that they had to play, where they went 1 goal down in their first knockout game, you could see the atmosphere. They were not downcast. They picked themselves up again and went on to win that game. So ever since, it's been a very different story. But it was always going to be a difficult match for Nigeria. But I must commend the Nigerian players. They held their nerves. They knew they were playing against an entire host nation. They knew that.
Yeah.
We had the Super Eagles had defeated them in the first group game, in the group game. Yeah. So they understand what it is to play against these people on their home soil, and more so that they scored the first goal. So it showed that the Super Eagles had belief. They were calm, they were relaxed, but there was also a problem. The 3-4-3, which the coach adopted to play, had its variations. It had its variations, and for this particular day, he played a 3-6-1. He played a 3-6-1. So a 3-6-1, and you know that the way he had deployed a 3-4-3 initially before this game, because against South Africa, he changed to a 4-3-3, sort of, So in this game, he played, well, technically, a 3-4-2-1. That's actually a variation of a 3-6-1. So, but it was too defensive-minded. They had to sit back a lot. They had to soak in all the pressure. But of course, the Ivorians were going to attack. They have the adrenaline. It's not necessarily because they were far better than the Super Eagles. Look, man, you have, when you are in that stadium and you are playing before your home crowd, you have a new sense of belief.
Your best shot.
The adrenaline, it's like you're on drugs, everybody is shouting the sea of orange in the stadium, It was formidable. It was formidable. It was formidable. Any team will crack under that. Well, I wouldn't say that the Super Eagles cracked. They held their nerves, but it was always going to be a difficult match, really. It was always going to be a difficult
But would you say that, because I remember before the championship started, you were here saying you didn't really have much expectations, or rather you were not, going...
You didn't give the Super Eagles a chance.
The Super Eagles, like, I won't bank on them. Let me just go face the work as a journalist. But did you see them exceeding your expectations?
First, what was my expectation? The Super Eagles coach had a target. The target was that in his first tournament, he should take the team as far as the semi-final. He surpassed that. The team is
That's a plus for him.
That's a plus for him. But whether we believe in him, but these things, statistics speak.
Yeah.
In football, he got the target, But, does this erode the fact that we have played 2 World Cup qualifiers where the Super Eagles barely rose up from the ground to fly on home soil, does that erode that fact? Does that erode the fact that, okay, can he take us further than that? This is a tournament. The tournament is different from long-drawn qualifiers and league games, which is what the World Cup qualifier will be. They will play home and away, home and away. Tournaments are different. Don't forget, in 1990, Nigeria was in this similar situation. in Algeria, when we lost 5-1 in our opening game against Algeria, and the team had to recalibrate to go into a defensive mode. That team was a largely home-based team that got to the final against the same Algeria, where Nigeria lost 1-0, you know, in that final. The team that had defeated Nigeria 5-1 in the opening game, in the opening group game, going on to defeat Nigeria 1-0 in the final in Algiers in 1990. It was a similar situation, okay? So you recalibrate the team for tournament purposes. You sit back, you defend, you do a smash and grab, you score 1 goal here, 1 goal there, a penalty there, you seal up. Against the Ivorians, it just didn't work. I would have felt that, you know, there are some of the players in that team, they are more effective when the team is attacking. For instance, someone like Iwobi. Iwobi is effective when you attack. Iwobi is not as effective when you play defensive formation, when you have to sit back. He is a ball carrier. He's a drifter. He's nifty. He moves in places. He has great vision for the ball. But you have to be in an attacking mode for someone like Iwobi to function. So it was a minus for him, and it looked as if he wasn't the kind of player you'll expect. But I would say that he would have been the go-to person in our team. Unfortunately, the team defended all through. Our defenders were fantastic. Truce Ekong was fantastic. Calvin Bassey was fantastic. Unusually, Oluwasemilogo Ajayi was calm, very cool. And it seemed this formation of 3 centre-backs, you know, suited him so well. Right. Maybe going forward, this is the formation the coach will play, a 3-4-3, maybe not a 3-6-1, because the 3-6-1 was meant to block off the Ivorians in midfield, probably allow them to come into our own half, choke up the spaces within our own half, and then it reduces the space with which they have to operate in the final third, because the final third is the most critical area where the goals are gotten, the nifty moves, the fast-paced moves. Now, but the Ivorians probably had something else in mind.
Of course.
They were on something. They were, you know,
You know, leading up to this match, you know how Nigerians had trolled, you know, everybody, Ghanaians, South Africans, and if you go on social media, you see people saying, thank you for helping us, you know, stop noise pollution and, and all of those things. But, and then there were those who are saying that Nigerians focused on the frenzy as against prepping up for the match itself. But then let's look at the yellow cards that we got. Do you think that also brought in some nerves why we couldn't make so much of the second half of the game?
I do not think so. I would have thought that the coach would have redesigned his approach, which is normal, but then Nigeria was leading. the formation he was playing, the approach, Nigeria was scoring. Nigeria had the lead, you know. Nigeria had done creditably well to open scoring. Now that's important, okay? So how do you suddenly change when you seem to have the upper hand in terms of the goal tally? Coaches usually don't like to do that. 2 things. Why do I need to change my formation when I am leading?
Right.
Why do I need to change my formation when I have the largest chunk of possession in the game? So even if the goals hadn't come, possession shows I'm dominating the game. So coaches are not always quick to tweak formation. So Nigeria was ahead. So why would the coach change the formation where he had scored the goal? Against the odds, Nigeria scored the goal first. So what Nigeria could have done is to look for the opportunity to put the game to bed. When you sit deep and you wait for the opponent to come at you, then it means you have to depend on fast break. So you need to calibrate the team for counter-attacks. I wouldn't say that this team in the final played counter-attacking football. Okay, I wouldn't say, because that's the way you do. You wait, you know, you suck them in. You allow them play their high line. They will always play the high line. Once they are in possession, they control play, they are dictating the pace of the game. The first 22 minutes of the game, the Ivorians came at us. The Eagles held their nerves and then got the first goal. You know, so that should have, I thought that should have unsettled the Ivorians. And then that would have been our advantage, to put the game to bed, you know. But because we did not put the game to bed, one goal is always a very difficult thing to defend, because suddenly the opponent will think, okay, we have them. We can, once we equalize, then we can go for the game. We can go for the killer. The Eagles did not try to put the game
Perhaps
to
we were
bed.
hoping it would run into penalties and all of that.
Well, I don't know. Maybe they thought they could defend it because the approach had been, I need just one goal. I mean, the coach's approach is, I need just one goal. It's been a very defensive team. Don't forget that this team, apart from the 2-0 victory, one of the matches where we won 2-0, the team had always one goal.
Yeah.
You score one goal, you defend it.
Sustain.
You know, you sustain it. So scoring one goal again. Well, you can say that again. But there's something I really want to talk about. Silver isn't bad, even though we feel that a nation of almost 200 million people, of about 200 million people, we should do better than those who are not up to 50 million. You know, sort of, we have the talent. What we have seen in this tournament is that countries that had played catch-up with us, they look like they are catching up, really. We couldn't really beat Equatorial Guinea. The South Africans that we used to whitewash were able to hold us. They do not have as much talent as we have. We have better talents, but we are probably not as organized as they are. The South Africans came with a huge chunk of home-based players from the PSL, and you see their performance against our own foreign armada, as we call them, the foreign legion of players we brought from all over the place. They caught up with us. We were only able to beat them via penalties. It shows that other people are catching up with us. The fact that we got to this final, if we had won it, would have probably created the impression that all is well with our football. All is not well. Don't forget that the Super Eagles don't have a home at the moment. So they either play in Asaba, in Uyo, in Port Harcourt, or somewhere else, you know. The Super Eagles don't have a home, unlike when we used to have the Lagos National Stadium, which was a fortress. Yes, there's a national stadium in Abuja, but it is hardly the fortress that the Super Eagles, that the Nigerian national teams know. Lagos had always been the place of the fortress. But here we have a stadium there that is rotting away, and then there is some discussions about concessioning it that is not even transparent, and we hear that there is plans to, you know, either sell the place, concession it, but whatever they want to do with that stadium, they should let us know. It's a national asset. It cannot be given. It cannot be given out to Enugu, like Enugu state government now owns the Nnamdi Azikiwe Stadium because it was built by the Eastern Nigeria government. It cannot be owned by the Liberty, like Oyo State would have owned Liberty Stadium, Obafemi Awolowo Stadium, because it was built by Western Nigeria government, or the Abubakar Tafawa Balewa Stadium, which is now owned by the Bauchi state government, or the Ahmadu Bello Stadium, owned by the Kaduna state government. The Abuja Stadium and the Lagos Stadium were built with federal money. So it's a national asset, and we cannot just give it away. We need to restore that stadium to be in the fortress of the Super
would you advocate that it still remains the home of the Super Eagles, or could Abuja, you know, come in at this stage?
See, in England, the spiritual home of football is Wembley. Every tournament you play in England, so when you play the FA Cup, the EFL Cup, which is organized by the FA, everybody talks about, oh, to Wembley, we are going to Wembley. It's a ritual, it's something spiritual for them. So when you play the FA Cup and you qualify for the final, wherever you are in the whole of England, they talk about, oh, we are going to Wembley. We are going to Wembley. That's a spiritual home of Nigerian football, as it were. That's where the biggest landmark in our football had taken place. That's the fortress of the Eagles. That's where Okwaraji died. Yeah. That's where that's the UAC area, where you could say, yeah, at Eslim Balogun and National Stadium. But that area used to be the old UAC ground, you know, and all of that, where we played football. We need to revitalize it. You know, the former sports minister then had demolished most of the shops in there, had sent people packing to clean up the place. So we're talking about cleaning up the place and renovating it, bringing it back to life. Then now we are talking about either selling it, concessioning it. What is exactly this plan? What is on the table? People have died because of the things that happened in the stadium. Yeah. A lot of people have died. People whose shops, whose livelihoods, whose investments in the stadium were completely destroyed in order to clean up that stadium. people died. While the Super Eagles was playing in Ivory Coast, people died for the game.
Yeah.
So that is the spiritual home of Nigerian football. We need to bring it back to life. I think that the states, since it's a national asset built with federal money, I think that the state should have a say in the national asset. Someone shouldn't just sit somewhere and with a wave of the hand just decide to give away the stadium to someone. What will it look like in the whole of Lagos? This is where people have places to train. There are not, you don't have a lot of places where people play.
Absolutely.
But the National Stadium is such one of the most expansive places where people come from all over. They come there to train. Even when they are not using the main bowl, the surrounding environment is there to play because it's one of the best facilities ever built in this country.
Right. Let's look at Pasiero at this point. Recall that Jose Mourinho was saying that, he wished that because they are close, according to him, he's Portuguese, and he said that no Portuguese had won any African tournament. That's what Jose Mourinho was saying, and so he would have loved that Pasiero, win the AFCON. But as it is now, Pasiero has still written his name somewhat in gold.
Well, this was how Clemens Westerhoff started. Clemens Westerhoff took over the Nigerian team without being able to qualify for the 1990 World Cup. We were eliminated in Douala, or was it in Yaoundé in Cameroon? That was Westerhoff's first main game, I think, yeah. So from then on, he had to play in the Nations Cup like this. He got to the final and got the silver, with a likely homegrown, team. This is how Westerhoff started. Do we believe in Jose Pesero's ability to take Nigeria to that same level? Well, I do not know. I do not have...
Let me ask you.
Okay.
You are the one here. Do you believe?
First, I'll need to have the ability of clairvoyance to be able to look into the future and say, this man will take us. But so far, I think he has started well in meeting his first target by his employers, even though some of us still feel that technically, some of us can read the game. We understand the game. So he played against a local boy, the Ivorian coach, who was not even a substantive coach, who won the tournament on home soil. Stephen Keshi won the tournament in South Africa. He's a home boy. He is Portuguese. Pesero is Portuguese. He's European. So he's supposed to have a higher capacity in football when you look at his CV of all the teams he has coached. This is the most significant thing he has won. This is the beginning point for him. Will we be able to entrust him with the national team? I think somehow he has earned it.
Having exceeded.
Even though I still do not believe that technically, he will do it. But then I can only judge him for what he has done.
Yes.
He has fumbled in 2 World Cup qualifiers. But he has gotten the silver in the Africa Cup of Nations. So are we saying that we couldn't have had a local boy who could have coached this team, who would have the nerve to hold this team?
Who is that local boy?
There are lots of local boys. Don't forget that Olise ran away from the team when, a lot of things went wrong and all of that. Don't say there are no. There is a Nigerian coach who is doing well in Europe.
Right.
There are so many of them who are trained in Europe, who have first-class coaching licenses. European coaching licenses to coach the team. There are coaches. All we need to do is that what we give to these foreigners when they come, we need to give them the same thing.
Right.
And they will excel.
That's key.
They will excel. So Massify, the local boy, has won the tournament against our own Jose Pesero, who is Portuguese. We need to give him some accolade for that.
Right. We'll leave this conversation here now. Solomon Ajuziogu, our sports correspondent, thank you for your time on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Right. Now, banks are now free to establish their own prices based on supply and demand. Will this improve the value of Naira in the country? Join us after the break for this conversation. Stay with us.